Hey everyone, it's Anna. Today I'm excited to share with you my Q1 and January bullet journal setup. Surprisingly, to me at least, quarterly setups are not actually very common in the bullet journal world, but I always feel like it's such a big leap to go from planning a whole year to just 1 month, and I feel like there are definitely goals and tasks that are better suited for an in-between time period. Thus, I'm going to try out some quarterly pages for 2023. For the spread on the left page, I'm writing the title in a bold typewriter-like font using the fine tip point of my black Tombow pen, and I'm filling in the letters with the brush tip side. Below, I'm going to create two boxes using my Staedtler fine liner pen with 0.3 millimeters. The top box is going to be for intentions. I'm imagining using this box for more generalized focuses or even characteristics for the quarter. For example, I might write that cleaning and organization is a focus because I'm planning on doing some spring cleaning. I also think I might write rest and rejuvenation as an intention for this quarter because 2022 was such a crazy year for me. I'm hoping the first few months of the year can have a more restful tone so I can reset and get some energy back. As you can see, I'm titling the boxes using my typewriter font stamp set. The bottom box is for goals, and this is where I'll write specific things I want to accomplish this quarter. I'm planning on mainly listing goals or even broken down steps that come from my annual goals here. If you want to see how I set up my annual goals in my bullet journal, I'll link my 2023 setup video below. On the right page, I have my rolling quarterly to-do list, which I titled in my basic calligraphy font using my smaller Tombow brush pen. This is intended for tasks that aren't necessarily big goals, but are things that just come up through the next few months that I want to get done at some point this quarter. Since I don't have February and March monthly setups yet, I think this could also be a great place to indicate tasks that I know I want to plan for upcoming months. Again, this is my first time using these quarterly spreads, so definitely stay tuned for my Q2 setup in April to see how I like these pages and if I decide to change anything about them. The artistic theme for these setups was inspired by a ski trip I just took to Colorado. The snowy evergreen trees and the Rocky Mountains were just breathtaking and so inspiring to me. I'm drawing a few pine branches in the corners of the boxes using a dark brown Tombow pen for the spine and a dark green for the needles. I'll list all the specific colors I'm using in the description box, as well as a link to all the other supplies I'm using. To add some variety and color, you saw that I used a blue brush pen to add a few strokes, and then I went back over that with the green brush pen to create kind of a darker green that also had a cooler tone to it. That variety subtly makes the branches look a little better. In the bottom right corner of the right page, I'm going to draw a pine cone using 3 different shades of brown. After drawing a few practice ones, I found my favorite technique was underlining the bottom of each of the scales in the darkest brown. Next, I'm outlining the top point of each scale in a lighter brown. And then I'm just adding some background strokes with this almost beige color. It's a little bit in between a realistic and abstract depiction. And I'm just adding some small pine branches to the sides. Now I'm going to use this white gouache paint to add some snow on top of the branches and pine cone. I'm not sure if gouache was the best paint to do this with because I did end up having to do 3 layers of paint every drawing to fully cover up the marker underneath, but I will say at least the gouache does dry really quickly. If you don't have paint, I honestly think that whiteout with the little sponge tip could work just as well here. I would have experimented with it myself, but I actually don't own any whiteout right now, which seems like kind of a fatal flaw for a bullet journalist, but somehow I get by. Next, I'm adding a few sprinkles of snow on the branches. For the pine cone, I'm just highlighting the top of each scale with white, and as you'll see, I'll add a little more white to the top of the pine cone as if the snow is a little more concentrated there. Next, we have my January calendar spread. I'm doing the title in a simple calligraphy font. I've been sticking with a plain black for all the titles in this setup because I think that helps create a really clean look. Across the 2 pages, I'm drawing a calendar. Each square for each day is 5 by 5 squares in my A5 sized journal. I have pretty small handwriting, and I also only use this calendar for events and just for my personal life too. I don't put anything to do with work, so this is enough space for me. If you like a little more space, you can use 6 by 6 squares. There's just a little less room for decorations on the margin. I'm stamping the letter for each day of the week at the top, and I'll write the number of each day in green with the fine tip of my Tombow pen. I accidentally drew an extra square in the calendar. I don't know what's going on, but I've been making so many mistakes so far in this setup. You might have noticed I spelled intentions wrong initially on the previous page, but I've just been using the white paint to correct any mistakes. Below the calendar, I have a small section for goals or tasks to do in January. I figured since I have my rolling quarterly spread, I wouldn't need as much space for each month, but we'll see at the end of the month if this was enough room for me. I'm decorating the page with a full evergreen tree on the left edge. One of my favorite things about this theme is that I get to do some drawing and it looks artsy, but the drawings are actually super easy and quick to do. I'm going to use the same technique I was with the blue pen and then going over it with green to add some different shades in the tree. I also tried to do the branches in bunches, so you can see there's some spaces between branches on each side. I thought this looked better, and it's going to make it easier to figure out where to put the snow later on. In the bottom corner of the right page, I just added a little tree branch to balance the pages and fill that empty space. Now I'm adding the snow with that white gouache paint on the tree. I'm following the branch bunches I created and doing more snow on the left side, almost as if there was some wind, so one side got a little bit more snow. I think this helps the tree look more realistic since it's not too symmetrical. I also added some white dots to the tree to make it look like it was snowing. And here's the final January setup. The next spreads will be my habit and mood trackers for the month of January. On the left page will be my habits, and I'm writing the font in that same bold typewriter font I used earlier. You might have noticed I tend to use one serif type font and one calligraphy type font for setups. These have a nice contrast and provide variety, but also gives consistency throughout a setup. On the page below, I'll draw the outline of the month 5 times for the 5 habits I'll be tracking. Later, I'll add the letter for each weekday at the top. I'm going to write the name of each habit with my green pen on the left side of each calendar outline. The habits I track each month change. I adjust them just based on what I feel like I need some extra accountability for, or if I'm trying to implement a new habit. I will say sleep and water intake are pretty consistent ones for me because those are things that I am terrible at and need consistent reminders and motivation for. Since we're already a week or so into January, I'm just going to start tracking habits for the days ahead instead of backtracking. If you're a perfectionist like me, this can be hard because it feels incomplete, but I've learned that sometimes spreads just happen late, and in order to have these pages add value to my life and not stress, I have to just be okay with that. In the bottom left corner, I'm doing another pine cone using the same technique as before, and then I'll add some pine branches coming out the side as well. On the left page, I'm going to put my mood tracker. I see so many bullet journalists do this, but it's never something I've done in past journals. I thought for at least the beginning of 2023, I'd give it a try though to see if it's helpful at all. There is so much variety online with how people do mood trackers, so I thought it'd be fun to create a special on-theme design. I'm drawing a pine branch with needles in groups of 3. Fun fact, pine trees are one type of evergreen tree, and one characteristic that sets them apart is their needles grow in bunches called fascicles, and you can identify different pine trees by how many needles are in a fascicle. Gray and pitch pines are 2 examples of trees that have fascicles of 3. In the spread, each needle represents a day, which I'll number on the outside, and I'll create a key for different shades of green to represent different moods. At the end of each day, I'll color in the needle based on my mood. I also have an asterisk in the key to indicate if it was a day I felt motivated, since that's something I'm interested in tracking too. The last spread of this setup will be my first weekly spread of the month. It'll take up 4 pages, and I'm using a sort of faux Dutch door to keep it cohesive. I got this idea from Elizabeth, who runs the Plant-Based Bride channel here on YouTube, and I'll link her video below if you want to check it out for an in-depth description on how this setup works. Basically, I'm separating each page into 2 columns. 7 of these columns will be days of the week, and the last column on the right side of the last page is my rolling weekly task list. This is an active list of all the tasks I want to complete throughout the week, but that don't need to be done on a certain day. The Dutch door makes it so that this list is visible no matter what day of the week I'm on, which is really nice. I'm titling each day with my stamp set, and these columns will hold all of my events and to-dos for each day. These daily areas are really where the magic happens and all the little details of my life are recorded. As a reminder, the main premise of the bullet journal system is to keep breaking down time into smaller intervals, but when you're planning for each section, always reference back to the next interval up. So for example, to put it all together, when I make my plan or list for Monday, first I'll reference my weekly task list before I fill out weekly events and write my weekly task list. I'll reference my monthly calendar. When making my monthly spread, I'll reference my quarter 1 pages. And finally, when I make goals for each quarter, I'll reference my year at a glance and annual goals. This may sound repetitive, and I guess it is, but I truly think it helps keep me really organized, helps me plan my time and priorities better, and always serves as a reminder of the big picture. For the art on these pages, I added a pine cone on the top left corner as well as the bottom right corner. At the bottom of the middle pages, I'm doing a simple landscape of some evergreen trees using the same techniques as with the tree on my January page, but in a smaller scale. I tried something new, which was to add a really light blue on the ground beneath the trees, and then I'll go over this with the white paint as well to create a snowy ground. I really like how that turned out. I'm doing that same tree landscape design on the other side of this page as well. Lastly, I'm stamping the dates for each day, which I forgot to do earlier, and I'm also going to underline each day to make it stand out a little more. I hope you guys enjoyed these spreads. Let's do a final flip through of all the setups. I'm really excited about this theme, and I think the full trees definitely turned out to be my favorites. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to support my channel. Hope you have an amazing day and see you in the next video.